All right, let's paint a picture. It's Sunday. Millions of people are glued to their screens, their faces painted, absolutely losing their minds because a bunch of strangers in matching outfits just fumbled a ball. And then there's you. You're just not feeling it at all. Ever. Wonder why that is? Well, it's not some kind of character flaw. It's all about your brain. I mean, if you've ever felt like a total alien at a Super Bowl party, or just kind of nodded along while your coworkers passionately debated a ref's call from last night, then yeah, this one's for you. You are definitely not alone, and the reason you feel that disconnect is actually pretty fascinating.
And this is the key takeaway, right here. Not caring about sports doesn't mean you're boring or that you lack passion. It just means your brain is wired to respond to the world in a fundamentally different way than the sports fanatics in your life.
Now, to really get why some people don't care, we have to understand just how many people do. A massive 60% of Americans follow sports. I mean, this isn't some niche hobby, it's a huge cultural phenomenon. So what's going on with the other 40%? What makes their brains tick differently? Well, it all starts with something really primal, deep in our evolutionary history. For thousands of years, our survival depended on being part of a tribe. And for a lot of people today, sports teams are basically our modern-day tribes, complete with team colors, sacred chants, and bitter rivals. So here's where it gets really cool from a biological standpoint. When a sports fan watches their team, their brain releases oxytocin. That's the bonding hormone. It's the same chemical that makes you feel all warm and connected to your friends and family. But for a non-fan, those tribal instincts just aren't as strong. Their identity isn't so wrapped up in belonging to a group, so they don't get that same hormonal rush. And because of that, they're way less likely to get caught up in that us versus them mentality. And that quote just nails it, doesn't it? It shows you just how powerful that chemical reaction is. It's not some conscious choice. It's a deep, biological pull that literally convinces a fan's brain that the players on the field are, in a very real way, part of their family, and they're worth defending. So we have the tribal connection, but that's not the whole story. There's another incredibly powerful chemical at play here, and this one explains why for some people, watching sports can feel so compelling, maybe even a little addictive.
So what's the deal? Why is it so addictive? The answer is all in our brain's reward system. It's all about anticipation, uncertainty, and that powerful little molecule that keeps us hooked, dopamine.
This brings us to a psychological principle called intermittent reinforcement. And you've got to understand, this is the most addictive reward schedule known to science. It's that maybe this time feeling. You never know when the reward is going to come. A shocking touchdown, a surprise win, and that very uncertainty is exactly what makes it so incredibly irresistible. And if you want the perfect analogy for what's happening, think of a slot machine. Seriously. Brain scans show that a fan watching a game has the same reward centers light up as a person gambling. It's a dopamine slot machine. Every single play is another pull of the lever, giving you these little hits of anticipation and, every once in a while, a big reward. The brain chemistry is basically identical. For non-fans, well, their dopamine systems just aren't triggered by watching other people compete. It doesn't push the same buttons. And get this, research from the University of Chicago actually suggests that tiny variations in your dopamine receptor genes can predict how interested you'll be in spectator sports. So yeah, your complete indifference, it might literally be in your DNA. Okay, so if it's not about tribalism or dopamine for you, what is it about? Well, a lot of the time, it just comes down to empathy. See, we all have a limited budget for deep, genuine caring, and non-fans, well, they just spend that precious resource somewhere else. Let's look at how fans invest their ego first. Psychologists call it burgeoning, which stands for basking and reflected glory. And you can hear it in how they talk. Listen for the pronoun switch. It's we won, but it's always they lost. Their self-esteem is literally tied to an outcome they have zero control over. Non-fans, on the other hand, just don't tend to do this. Their sense of self is more stable. It isn't riding on the performance of a sports team. So where does all that emotional energy go for a non-fan? It has to go somewhere, right? It gets budgeted out to other parts of their life. They're directing that capacity for deep caring towards their personal relationships, maybe creative projects, social causes, or diving into new ideas and intellectual challenges, places where their engagement can actually have a direct impact. And hey, this isn't just a hunch. A 2021 study actually backs this up. It found that people with a low interest in sports tend to score way higher on personality traits like openness to experience and appreciation for art and beauty. They're getting those same deep feelings of meaning and connection, just from different places, like art, music, or being out in nature.
And this brings us to what might be the biggest, most important difference of all. It really comes down to how you find your story, your sense of meaning, in this chaotic thing we call life.
Sports fans often engage in something called parasocial investment. It's a one-sided relationship where they pour all this emotional energy into a team that doesn't even know they exist. They find meaning as a spectator in a grand external story. The non-fan? They often prefer direct engagement. They invest their energy where there's some give and take, where they can be an active participant in their own story, not just watching someone else's.
So let's just boil it all down. The difference between a fan and a non-fan isn't about who has more passion, it's about psychology. It comes down to 4 key things: how your brain's reward system is wired for dopamine, the strength of your ancient tribal instincts, where you choose to spend your limited empathy budget, and finally, whether you find meaning as a spectator or as a participant. If there is just one thing you take away from all of this, let it be this: you are not broken or boring for not caring about sports. You're not missing out on some essential part of being human. Your brain is simply calibrated to find meaning, connection, and excitement in different arenas.
So the next time you feel like the odd one out, just remember that. You're playing a different game with its own set of rules, its own passions, and its own unique victories. The only real question is, what's yours? If any of this resonated with you and you're curious to learn more about all the fascinating ways our minds work, I'd love it if you'd subscribe to Simply Psyche. We break down the psychology behind everyday life to help you understand yourself and the people around you just a little bit better. Thanks so much for joining me.